Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, the Donegal-based troubadour Cuan Muyllaert, professionally known mononymously as Cuan, discusses his career as a musician, starting his new project, his debut single On a Ship, working as an artist, his work on the ship, his teaching background, mental health, and much more. Towards the end of this interview, Cuan mentions some upcoming dates he has going. Now, one of them was tonight at the time of upload. I tried to get this interview finished and done and ready before the gigs happened, but I was just unable to. So that first one he mentions is missed, but for all the other dates, there will be tickets available in the description of this episode. Thank you very much and enjoy. Hey, Cuan, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
How's it going? I can hear you. 1 second till I try and
Perfect.
turn you up a little bit. Oh, that
I was
seems
just
to be.
making sure that it's in the right, that the microphone was connected. I've had that issue before.
Can you see me?
I can see you perfectly. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. I don't see myself, but that's okay.
That's perfect. I can see you, man. Can you see me? And
I can see you. I can see you.
that's perfect, man. Dude, I'll try and take up too much of your time. It's very nice to meet you. Let's start a little bit about your background. I mean, obviously you've had, kind of part of an overall kind of music lineage. Yeah, maybe if you could discuss that a little bit.
A lineage. What do you mean by lineage? Sorry.
Well, like my understanding is that music is very much an important part of your family, and
Yeah.
some artists I speak to, that can be a huge influence from a young age, and other people discover music more independently. I'm kind
Okay.
of interested in that, like in terms of like, how youth kind of shapes the music that
Sure.
artists will create in their adult life.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, so I was actually filling out a thing there the other day, this kind of online interview thing, and I was thinking about that very question, sort of where did music start for me, or how did that little fire get lit, I suppose, or
Mhm.
um, just helped along the way. And one of the first things that really hit home for me was it wasn't like the Clancy brothers or something really big or dramatic. It was actually at a variety show in Navan Community Centre, of all places. I'd say I was about 5 years old, and there was a woman sang the song "From a Distance." I don't know. Do you know that song?
I probably would if I heard it of
It's it's
from.
it's a, it's a kind of a it's a very Christian kind of song, and it's talking about from a distance the world is green and blue and everything is peaceful, and it's a very middle of the road kind of song, I suppose. But as a kid of 5 years old, I remember the tears in my eyes and the power of just this local woman singing this song. Because for me, I hadn't seen anything live like that before, ever. So it had this kind of dramatic effect on me. And it really, thinking about it there the other day, it really reminded me that you don't have to have this high culture sort of musical background in order for music to have an effect on you. It can be something as simple as that. So um, I just remember that really well, and yeah, I like to remind myself of that these days because we live in a very competitive world at the moment, and everyone is trying to, whether they are aware of it or not, a lot of people are trying to, walk the extra mile or write the extra song or different things like that. And it just was a great thing for me to remember because it brought me back to the whole reason why you do these things in the first place. And that's so that people can get moved and you can get moved by it. And it kind of just centers you, calms you down a bit, and you can enjoy it. And it's not about a big achievement or a big success. It's about the music itself, if you like.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the answer, I suppose. The other part of the answer then would be I grew up in a house where my dad makes musical instruments. So my dad, Jan, makes Irish harps mostly, but he's made all stringed instruments and works with wood. And from an early age, we had no telly in the house. So our sitting room as kids, myself, my brother, and my sister, was our playroom, if you like. And there was always some kind of drums there, some sort of instrument there. And they were just there. It wasn't like, we were made go to piano lessons or fiddle lessons or something like that, because that can have a detrimental effect on people's love for music. And, all they can think about is the traumatic fiddle lessons they went for.
Yes.
Um,
It can also make music very regimented and not have that kind of play.
exactly, exactly. And that is so important for any creativity. If you're not playing, if you're not relaxed, if you're not in touch with that sort of childish side of yourself, and if
Hmm.
you don't feel safe, um, you might create something, as in, I won't even say create, you might construct something that people might admire a lot from a technical perspective. Um, but I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the joy of creating something and the joy that other people get from listening to that creation. Um, so yeah, those instruments were always lying around. We'd have an amp or two. I remember at one stage we got this mad old PA system that had all kinds of echo and effects and stuff on it. We had this tiny little Yamaha keyboard, and you just mess around. Um, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it can be a big deal, especially in today's world. To be artistic is seen as something special, something unusual, and I don't think it should be. I think it should just be part of your life, because if you're not in touch with that part of your soul or um, your personality, um, your life will be a lot less rich for it.
Absolutely. That's something that I think a lot of artists now who are I think the idea, that even existed only a couple of decades ago of like, making it as a musician and that being your livelihood is something that a lot of people are seeing kind of dissipate as time goes on. And really now, the only reason to create art is for art's sake, I think. Do you think about you're mentioning like, kind of old Christian songs and how that kind of resonates with you decades later? Do you think that that longevity is the purpose of art?
Is the purpose of art. I suppose
Longevity, well, let me put it more so, longevity is the purpose of creation, or do you think it's just more instinctual and then as time passes, then you see if it has longevity or not?
I think it probably depends on the art. Um, some art is made and gone, within hours or minutes,
Yeah.
and that is just, say, like sculptures, sand sculptures on a beach. There's such a great beauty to that because it's created and it's, I won't say destroyed. That doesn't make sense. It's created and it melts away maybe. Um, but that's not to say that somebody won't see that or child won't see that, and it has an effect on them, and it creates a memory. So that in itself is longevity, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um,
And it's also artists who do chalk drawings on the side of the road as well.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And if you like playing a song, although the song might live on, the moment in which you play it live, for instance, that's a fleeting moment, and sometimes that's kind of heartbreaking if you do the best version you've ever done of that song and then it's gone. But that's part of it. You just have to sort of let that go, because part of what makes a song work in a certain situation is not just you singing the song, but it's the people that are listening. It's the room that you're in. It's whatever happened to you that day. All that stuff affects how you play and how people interact with you. and how people listen. So it's momentary. What happens, I suppose, is momentary, but the lasting effect, yeah, can trigger something that just stays with you, I suppose. And if you're asking me, I think you were kind of asking me, is that the point of art? Was that the question, or
Well, I'm more interested in kind of what influences people to create, because I've spoken to a lot of
ah,
artists who talk about, stuff outlasting them. Um, which, you can see, like, say, in Shakespeare, Shakespeare's
oh
dead
yeah,
for, 300 years, or whatever. And he's still quoted. A lot of artists think about the longevity of the work they're creating, where I think a lot of younger artists, it's more ephemeral, and it's more about in the moment, kind of, just creating something just because it's fun to play live.
yeah. It's an interesting one. I think, and maybe I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, but there's so much stuff being created now, and it's so easy in a way to display it online through social media or whatnot. It feels difficult sometimes not to think that your work is just going to be seen and gone in a
Yeah.
second, because
If it's even seen in the first place.
if it's even seen in the first place. So
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the
yeah,
reality of what it is. And that's not even, comment on people's talent or the work
yeah,
itself. I mean, sometimes the work is of very high quality and a very high standard, and the lyrics that are being put forward are very, thought out, and
yeah.
but I don't know. It's to some degree. I've spoken to other artists about this. It can be a look of a draw. Sometimes it's, hard work and tenacity and persistence, but it all seems so arbitrary in terms of what gets traction and what gets notoriety, I think.
It depends. It depends on expectations too. Um, I think if you can reach someone in a live situation. I used to play an awful lot for kids, and I used to play an awful lot for kids with disabilities and adults with disabilities. I kind of did that more as full time for a few years, um, and that's a different sort of dynamic, and it completely changed the way that I play, especially with kids with autism, because now the autistic spectrum is very wide. So, that's a general thing to say kids with
Sure.
autism. But some of the kids that I played for, it made me play so much softer. And you're playing completely in the moment, because this person is not going to follow you on Instagram. This person maybe is nonverbal.
Mm.
They don't have a phone. They don't have any interest in um, the rankings of people amongst social media or anything like that. So it's a far more direct and honest sort of reaction that you're getting there. If they don't like it, that'll become apparent very, very quickly. And if they do like it, it might become apparent just because they don't leave, basically.
Sure.
So, um, yeah. So that I know that had a dramatic effect on how I play, and a really good effect, because um, when I used to play years ago, I used to think that you had to hook people into your song, and you really had to be kind of forceful about it. You had to grab people's attention, and actually, you'll get far more traction by being quiet and offering what you have, not forcing what you have. So say, look, if you'd like to listen to this, you can listen to this. And if you don't want to listen to it, that's absolutely fine. And you do your thing. Now, it depends on the situation. Obviously, if you're playing in a venue and people have paid in, then you kind of want people to at least, not be talking, or to listen to you. But um, as regards a kind of feeling of entitlement towards being listened to just because you're a musician, I let that go years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I get irate by proxy when I go to a venue and there's a singer performing and people are talking, because I think it is, yeah, what you're saying is true, where it's like, you shouldn't demand attention just by virtue of being the one in front of a microphone. But I do think if you don't want to pay attention to the artists you're listening to, you should leave the room.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
just a fair. Everyone's paid either with their money or their time to be there, and if the agreement is that we're going to sit down and listen to this person, then don't be an idiot about it. Just do something, do what you need to do. But don't do it here.
Yeah. No, I think I don't know if you've experienced with busking, but a lot of musicians kind of start with busking, and some have good success. But I find that a lot of people who've kind of started from that tend to find it to be kind of a confidence destroyer, because if you're on
Yeah,
like a, because normally you're doing it on kind of a high street, right, where there's a lot of traffic and people are busy and they're going about their day to day, and sometimes, and it mightn't even be intentional, it might just be your interpretation of their reaction,
yeah,
but they can look kind of scornful or disinterested or kind of annoyed by your presence almost. Do
yeah.
you think, I don't know if you've experienced with busking?
Oh, I've lots of experience of busking. When I remember I was living in Dublin in 1999, and I was studying photography at the time in Sallynoggin in near Dunleary.
Hmm.
It's that long ago. There was no digital photography. It was all black and white and dark rooms and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
um, I became really interested in performing on the street, and it was a kind of a baptism of fire, and it was enjoyable sometimes. But I remember one night I got robbed. This guy came up behind me, and I had my jacket off, and he took my jacket, and
Hmm.
the nonchalant way in which he just took it, put it on, and started going through the pockets. And then suddenly there was another guy standing in front of me, and it was terrifying. And he took the jacket. Um, but that was, yeah, that was no, that's kind of, I suppose, an extreme example. But you get a lot of, you're on display, and when you're on display, um, people feel entitled to criticize,
Yeah.
which is a strange thing, really. It says more about them than it does about you. But um, I used to enjoy the challenge of that, and I have to say I don't really enjoy it anymore. I'll sometimes busk, but I'll sort of do it in when I really feel like it, and I'll do it somewhere where I'll just be low key and kind of to the side, and then people like that will drift in if they want to. But the Grafton Street thing, which was what I did back then, that's tough going. That's really
Yeah.
tough going. And now, if you're a good-looking girl with a cowboy hat, sometimes you can make a lot of money playing the same song the whole day. But if you're a young lad like I was, you're like every other young lad, and I thought I was an awful lot better than I was as well. So I was okay, but I was way off the mark, as regards being totally in tune, or being a very good guitarist. So yeah, it can really shatter your confidence if it goes badly, I think. And I would caution people about it for sure. I'd say do it if you feel like doing it, but don't have any wild expectations from it, because um, it can be great, or it can really wreck you.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen the film once, but I think the opening sequence of that film is a really good representation of what it's like to be a Grafton Street busker.
Okay, I haven't seen it. What happens in the
So at the
scene?
beginning, Glenn Hansard is playing on Grafton Street, and he's setting up, and a guy beside him is trying to steal his coin, and he's like weary of him, and he's trying to play, and he can't really concentrate on the song because this guy is kind of buzzing around him trying to take his money. So he
Yeah.
like kicks at him and tells him to fuck off, and then eventually the dude grabs his money and runs all the way up to Stephen's screen. So he has to chase him and get his money back, and leave all his equipment like his PA
Oh God.
system and all
Yeah.
that. And I just feel like it's a difficult it's the Grafton scene. I do not envy anyone who has to endure
No,
that.
yeah, definitely not. I remember I moved to Galway the following year, and I remember standing outside Taft's in Galway,
Yeah.
which I think is still closed. It's mad. That shop has just been sitting there for about 25 years.
Is
But
that near the Latin Quarter? I'm not familiar with the shop.
it's on, I think it's on Shop Street or Key
Okay,
Street,
yes, yes.
probably Shop Street, and it's somewhere across the road. There's a Taft's pub, I think, and then there was this place which was a clothes shop. Now maybe I have it wrong. It's a long time ago, but it was just the shop was closed down, had been closed down for a few years. I think it's still closed down, but there's a sort of a doorway there where people would stand and busk. And I just moved to Galway, and I was just going to hit the street and try this out and play a bit of music. And I just set up my guitar, put down the case for the money, and next thing I hear this voice behind me, and it's this guy with a fiddle, and he just goes, "You going to be long?" that was that was the introduction to Galway, because it's fairly territorial, you know.
Yes. Yes.
That's the other thing. You mightn't even get along with the other buskers. You know, people can be very territorial in those situations.
Yes. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So I want to ask then, how did kind of your experience eventuate into the project you're doing now?
Yeah. Okay. That's an interesting question. All right. So some of the songs are fairly old, and some of them were written in the last year or two. And I was trying to get a whole project together for a long time, but having the balls to do it, I suppose, is kind of, to take that step to record it properly and to actually work on it, to believe in it, to play it live, and to try and get it out to people. Um, is a scary kind of thing to do. Anybody who creates anything artistic, and I have released EPs before, but not in the kind of structured way that I'm doing this one, But so I had a lot of stuff done and collected, and then I just decided I was going to do an album. So this was going to be the album, and I had songs that were happening as I was out. I work at sea, so as I was out in the ship, I was writing some songs. I already had some songs written, and then one evening on the ship, I was looking at Instagram, and my friend Sinead Gallagher, who's a painter up here in Donegal, she had one of her paintings that she just finished called Bird of Paradise up on Instagram. And I looked at it, and I can't exactly remember if I wrote the song right away or if it took a few days or how I did it, but it struck a chord with me, and it wasn't just the painting. And if you hear the song, maybe it'll make sense. Um, it was the painting, but it was also Sinead is married to a friend of mine, Mark. It was to do with my, say, relationship with them as well. And there was something in that painting that reflected that, or just sparked something in me. So I wrote the song. It seemed obvious to call it Bird of Paradise, even though to the layman that wouldn't make sense when you hear the song necessarily. Um, but then, as a commitment to completing the project, I thought I have to buy this painting, because this painting has to be the cover of the album. And sometimes by spending some money, you're like, well, I'm invested in this now in
Yes,
more than one way, and it kind of pushes you on to do it.
absolutely.
I don't know. Do you write music? Um,
I do. I don't release professionally.
yeah,
I did it one time just to see what the process was like.
yeah,
Um, and just so when I was doing these kind of interviews, I'd have some kind of
yeah. Of
baseline
course.
knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly. No, that's it. Because yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I asked you, because um, it's sort of
I
Yeah,
definitely didn't spend too
testing.
much money on it. It was very much home demos kind of thing.
Yeah, which is great. I did a lot
Yeah.
of stuff like that when I was younger. But then I just found that I started finding it too stressful to try and do the recording and the playing. And there's something about a computer as well that's very distracting.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's hard to get that all right. And just being on your own. It's I prefer doing these things with other people, you know.
Yeah. I find that sometimes deadlines, whether self-imposed or other people's, can really give you the kick up the arse if you have the
Yeah.
time to do it. Yeah.
Well, I get other people to give me deadlines because I
Yeah.
can't do it myself. So I'll actually, you have to admit, and it's not always easy, you have to admit your weaknesses. And mine is I can make a list of stuff I need to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll go and today I got my van tested, and thankfully there's nothing too wrong with it. But I'll do all of that stuff, and then I'm like, right, I have to work on this song, and I have to, and I kind of do it. But if somebody else tells me to do it, I'll
Yeah.
definitely do it. Do you
Yeah.
know? Um, but yeah, so I by buying that painting, it made me commit to the project, and it also kind of, if you like, just cemented my artistic and friendship sort of relationship with Mark and Sinead. And Mark has taken a lot of photographs. He's a really, really, really good photographer. So he's taken my photographs, my press photographs for this project. Um, and Sinead obviously did the painting. And yeah, it's like it's not just I found a designer online and I gave him the stuff and then he came back with something and I said, "Oh, that's great." For me, there always needs to be some kind of organic process and some sort of maybe a friendship or something deeper than just I found a guy online,
Right.
basically. That's really important to me. And because I don't have any great illusions, it would be great if I made an income from this, but I have no great illusions about the chances of that because it's increasingly difficult. Um, I wanted to really,
Even sorry, even like artists who are successful, who are, I would consider,
yeah,
good successes, even they like still have part-time job. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
there's no security for it. There's no pension fund.
no, God, there's not, no, there really isn't. Yeah, like I would. It's
Unless
funny
you're
because
like Mick Jagger.
exactly
Yeah.
your podcast is called Post-Burnout.
Yes.
Well, you're looking at it like it's
No, but that's why I called it that, because like I was looking at so many artists who, once I started kind of getting into this, like how as you were kind of alluding to earlier, how like it's something that you do after being burnt out from work or being burnt out from life, just because you
yeah,
have an inclination to create.
yeah, and it's like I'm at the moment thinking about like I work at sea, but that's getting harder and harder to do. You're gone for 4 weeks, and yeah, you've got 4 weeks off after that, and that's great. But about a week and a half into that 4 weeks off, you're thinking about when you're getting back on,
Yeah.
and you're trying to stay consistent with friends. You're trying to stay consistent with like music and with sessions and other pastimes that you enjoy. And there's a severance, there's a cut off there that happens when you get back on that ship. And a ship is, it all depends on the crew. It can be a fine place to work and it's grand, but it's still a prison for 4 weeks, like it or not, no matter what way you look at it. And it might be a pleasant prison, if there is such a thing. But that's kind of what it is. So, and I like there's a great romantic idea for me being like a seafaring troubadour and all that, but I won't lie to you, it's getting hard.
Yeah.
Um, and the transitions are something that I think I find difficult, and a lot of people find difficult. You're basically moving out of your house once a month, and then you're moving out of the ship once a month. So there's that whole upheaval every time you do it.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
let me ask about the ship actually.
yeah,
So when you're on sea, you're mentioning you're on sea for 4 weeks. So Would
Yeah,
that be like a full crew? What kind of size
yeah.
of the ship would you
The
be
ship
going?
is
So
80 meters long,
yeah.
so it's a big ship.
Mhm.
Well, relatively speaking, it's not, but
So
it's
it's not
big
like
enough.
Jaws or something.
No, 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 it's not. It's not a little boat
Sure.
with guys with three or four guys. No, it's a full ship. You've got your own cabin. Um, you've got a cook preparing your meals, and you've got all the facilities you would have at shore. Pretty much. There's a gym. There's a TV. There's TV in your cabin. So
See,
comfort
I think
wise,
my sort of image of, I guess, sea life is probably a bit antiquated.
yeah. Well, it's unless you've done it, and I only started doing that about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
I had no clue. I just, like many people who are creative and trying to do stuff in the music industry, I wasn't making an income. So, and well, I could talk about that in a minute, but
Absolutely.
I tried the pub gig route, and you'll make an income, but then you won't like playing music anymore. So, so what do you
I've
do?
heard that.
You
Yeah.
know, it's there's a sort of a place if you're lucky you can get gigs where you play a bit, where you play a lot of songs that you enjoy playing,
Yeah.
and you're sort of like I don't play piano, but it's you're sort of like a cocktail pianist. So you just sit in the corner and you play, and people will interact with you a little bit, and you're not too
You're
much on
Sam from
display.
Casablanca.
Yeah, it's not the worst kind of thing, but at the same time, you're actually selling yourself short in a way. And it's like doing the thing you're trying to do the thing you really want to do by sort of half doing it. And all it really does is tire you out and make you just about enough money to survive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know the answers to these questions. Yeah, I just, I don't know. It'd be great to win like a few 100,000.
Played a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Well, actually, I have to ask, so when you're on the ship, do you get much time for creativity? I mean, can you read or can you look for inspiration in that sense, or is your time then on your off time when you're not working, is it just rest? Do you have time to actually decompress and try and get your creative juices flowing, or does all that occur when you're back on land?
It, if, there was a couple of trips where I managed to do it, but the last few trips I haven't managed to do it. Um, so it's dependent on how the trip is going,
Yeah,
and my priorities are obviously I have to work. You can't just not work on the ship, so you have to put in your hours, which is normally sort of 8 to 5,
hmm,
and then I have to exercise to keep myself sane. So that's my way of resetting is to exercise. So I'll go to the gym for an hour. So now you're up to about 6 o'clock. Then dinner. So you're done with dinner by maybe 7 o'clock, and you kind of relax. And then this trip, I was doing a lot of trying to get the promo stuff out for for the album and the single. So I was writing bios and stuff like that. And by the time you've that done, because that is I enjoy it, but it's also kind of work. So your brain is going to be tired after it. Um, Actually being creative, actually practicing guitar or playing a song, it just hasn't been happening the last few trips. And it's nobody else. People are interested in what you're doing, but there's nobody else in the ship who's particularly creative themselves. And that's
sure.
no disrespect to anyone, but it's not their thing. So I don't know if you're spending time around other musicians, it's not necessarily going to be jamming with them as such, but it can really help you to play and to create because you're seeing the same struggles. I don't know. It has an effect by maybe osmosis, if you like. You're just sort of you're picking things up. You're getting more in the mood for things. Whereas if the only thing that's happening on the ship is that people are watching TV or on their phones. That's not really going to inspire you to feel more creative. Now you can, I did it for a while, but it's a chore, and I did get some reasonable results, but the difference when you're around people that are creative and you're going to be meeting somebody creative that evening, or you're going to be going to a session or whatever it is, um, it's just, yeah, it's night and day.
Well, let's talk about the single that's coming up on the ship, fittingly
Yeah.
enough. So this was written on land, then. So this was something that you were you thinking of the ship, I guess, kind of a bit more divorced, like not actually from the perspective of being on the ship as you're writing, but more so thinking about it in the sense that I don't know, someone writing about their job probably isn't writing it in the office.
Yeah, I actually wrote it on the ship. I wrote it while I was on watch. So you in the evening you take a watch sometimes from if the ship is at anchor, there needs to be somebody on the bridge, monitoring the
Yeah.
radios and making sure the anchor doesn't slip. So it was early on, I think it was 2022 probably, and I wasn't really enjoying that trip at all. It was early on. There was a lot of old school guys there, a lot of shouting, a lot of bad blood between people, and it was just hard. So I wrote that not even as a song. I wrote it as a way of processing what was happening, and as trying to just cope with a situation. And a lot of my writing is that it's a lot more like people journal. I suppose it's a little bit like that, but at the same time, I like to think it's more than that. I like to think that I'll actually find a path through something difficult by writing about it. And even if it doesn't solve the situation, it clarifies the situation. And a lot of
Yes.
the time, I think what really bothers people when they're in a situation is that they don't understand what's happening. So they feel bad, but they don't really know why. It's like, okay, I know there's weird moods happening here. I know there's, somebody isn't completely happy with me, or I'm not happy with them, or some. But if you can at least make it clear, then you go. There's a sense of, I find a sense of relief with that. Um, and it also, if it makes it that clear that it's time to do something different, um, there's a sense of relief with that too. So that's what I was doing when I wrote it. And then I think about a year later, maybe more, I had literally just, I think I'd written it, and maybe there was a bit of a melody there, and I just recorded a bit of that melody just on my phone. I can't remember exactly, but I I was doing some sub teaching. So I've studied theatre. I did a master's in theatre, which means I can be a sub teacher. I never studied teaching as such, but I did a master's in theatre and education, which means I can sub teach. So I was sub teaching, and I was teaching, or I was managing high infants and low infants in this school, and they left at 2 o'clock. I think the infants leave early, and I was left with an hour that I just had to stay there to finish up my day. And I had this written down, and I started to work on it. And sometimes when you're not at home, I don't know if anybody else finds this, I'm sure they do. I'll often come up with something when I'm driving, and I'll pull over and I'll write it down, or I'll make a note of it on my phone. Or if I'm somebody else's house, which can be awful rude, but I'd be somebody else's house, like a friend's house, and suddenly I see things differently. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, do you mind if I just use your spare room for a few minutes there and take out my guitar?
It's difficult.
Um,
I was in, believe it or not, I was in a live event just yesterday, and I had an idea based on something one of the speakers was saying. It was like a conference thing. I had an idea for um like kind of like a poem or like a short
Yeah.
story, and I was like, I need to write this down, but I couldn't. So I still
Oh
have it in
no.
my mind. I haven't wrote it down yet, but I
Well,
was thinking of
write it down.
yeah,
Definitely
maybe
write it
yeah,
down. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, but that was the thing. It's like, you never know if you're creatively inclined, whether you're a musician or anything really, like a writer or even sometimes like, when you're journaling, you have ideas for like, an opinion piece or something like that. And
yeah,
it always hits you at random times. I think actually the Notes app on people's phone, because I'm so old, like I wish I had like, like a notepad and pen all the time. I'm like
yeah.
really analog with writing notes. I don't know why. I
Me
find like
too.
with the Notes app, I write stuff on my Notes app and then I close the app and I forget about it. Where I find like
Totally.
if I have a notepad, it's like, oh yeah, that's my
Yeah,
ideas kind of yeah.
yeah. No, 100%. I would be the same, and I have a lot of notes in my phone, and what I need to do is make time to um go through them all and write them down. But I still think something is lost by not physically writing it down in the first
Yeah.
place.
And the other thing too, I
Um,
don't know if you get this as well, but sometimes I find like, the way notes are dated on your app. So it'd be like, this note is from the 13th of January or whatever. I'm always like, oh crap, I've been sitting on this for so long. Where if it's on a notepad, I feel like that kind of
yeah,
time pressure isn't there, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Like
It makes
it
complete
still exists
sense.
as it comes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it maybe because we associate phones with calendars
Yes.
and stuff like that. Because I would have written songs before, and I would have put a date on the top of the page. But for some reason, that's a positive thing when you go back to it.
Hmm.
So you're like, oh yeah, I remember that day, or okay, so that's when that was. But it's not like, yeah, there's just the note that you make on your phone looks exactly the same as the note that you made to buy butter.
Yes.
So there's nothing special about it. Whereas when you write it
Yes.
down, those very strokes that you do with your pen or your pencil, there's something different there.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also wary of buying a notebook specifically for writing notes for music. I'd rather write it on a beer mat,
Hmm.
if you understand me, or write it
Sure.
on the back of a book or so. There's I don't know
Or
what
in a
it is.
receipt
If
or
I have
something.
this
Yeah.
little notebook, I'm like, oh God, pressure. Now I have to put stuff in this notebook.
Yeah.
Whereas if I need
I
to
get
go up
that
to the
too. Yeah.
bar and say, do you have a pen or a cafe or
Yeah.
wherever it is that it's yeah, it's a
Sure.
funny thing.
No, that's actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like when you have the notepad, you do feel that pressure to be like, oh, I haven't written that in like months,
Exactly.
and you're like,
It's so
what?
stupid, like,
Yeah.
because
But
it
no,
doesn't
it's like,
matter.
yeah, but no, I think it's good. It's like, I wish every shirt I had a breast pocket, so I could just put it in
Yeah,
there.
there you go. It's funny because I was
But you're
talking to
also
a friend of
afraid
mine.
of losing it too, wouldn't you? You'd also be like, oh, if I left on the
There's
bus or
that.
something.
Yeah, yeah. There is. There's definitely that. And I think I'm lucky enough that I have somewhere in boxes. I think I still have all the various notes that I've written over the last probably 25, 27 years.
Hmm.
And I'm really looking forward to someday sitting down and just making sure they're safe. There's something very special about those things, like um they're not to be taken lightly. These were moments in your life when you realized something. And yeah, in a way, maybe you learned that lesson and you don't need that piece of paper anymore, but there's something very valuable about that piece of paper for me. Um,
Well, oddly enough, it goes back to longevity, I guess. It's weird because like I don't know if you find this, but I sometimes find like, when you look back at like years, they can kind of meld together to the point where it seems like one long continuous stretch where you don't really appreciate the demarcations that kind of came in between them, if that makes sense. So like for me, I
yeah,
can
of
think
course
back
it
to my
does.
childhood
Yeah.
and not really think about my adolescence or my 20s and sort of just feel like it's a continuation of the day before or something.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it makes a lot of sense because life is very broken up and
Yeah.
how you think about things changes constantly. And these little markers are, I think, a big help in maybe feeling how your path has been or
Yeah.
looking back at some kind of making kind of
Be like,
sense.
oh, I was in that job back then. Oh, I was with that person. I don't even talk to them anymore or something like that. It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you've traveled, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a good thing, I think.
I think it's a
Even
great
though,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, some people would argue that there is just now like what's your man's name? Erkard Troll or Trolle.
Hmm.
I was reading that recently. I had to stop because it was just too much. Um, or I was listening to it as an audiobook, and it's a great idea. Just be in the now, be in the present. But then he goes
I
on
find
to
that
say,
too hard to do.
I think so. I find it really
I
hard
try
to
it.
do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
sometimes, like, yeah, you can just if you let go too far, like if your brain is constantly trying to exist in the present while sorry, if your physical person is trying to exist in the present while your brain is stretching to the future and the past, it can just be overwhelming. So
it
I understand
is.
the purpose of that,
Yeah,
to kind of reduce anxiety and stress and even depression. But like, I also understand the difficulties that just like trying to be like,
it
I'm a blank canvas that only began today. I just can't do that.
No, I can't either. And like as a person who does get quite anxious and I've had various anxiety issues for
Hmm.
years, I find it really anxiety inducing. It's like,
Yeah,
it's like, oh God,
yeah,
I've got to be present, oh Jesus. And actually, if you're feeling anxious, um, meditation and feeling really present is not necessarily good
yeah.
because
It can vary very much.
you
Yeah, I tried it.
you can feel really aware of how the anxiety is making you physically feel, and that
I,
can make it a
I,
whole
I,
lot worse.
I get that exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have that too. I get the
Yeah,
feeling of like, oh, my throat is doing this, my stomach's doing this.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Whereas actually, you might be better off just watching that video or reading that book or just distracting yourself a little bit, which is a fairly proven way to reduce anxiety. Don't focus on the anxiety, you know.
I
Um,
actually heard something that was interesting. I don't know if this is scientifically sound, but I heard
yeah.
supposedly, at least in some test trials, that watching horror movies can help people with anxiety, ironically, because the anxiety they're feeling gets kind of projected onto the film. So they're
Oh yeah.
relating it to that. So like if you're watching, I don't know, someone waiting to be killed or whatever film you're watching, the anxiety you're feeling that's just kind of more generalized sort of gets projected onto something and can actually reduce it then because I don't know you're not as
You're
hyper
you're
focused. I'm probably explaining it
you
badly, but yeah,
No, you're not. I think you're it makes sense. You're giving the anxiety a home. So you're giving
yeah,
it a purpose.
yeah,
So you're like, well, okay. So the brain or the body can then go, okay, this is what's wrong. So
yeah,
we'll watch this and okay, now it's over. So we've
yeah,
really felt that intense thing. I do hill running for the same reason. It's
yeah.
not necessarily all that scary, but you push yourself quite a lot. It can be kind of I'm far from being an adrenaline junkie. I'm not at all.
I
But
mean,
you're still you're up in the hills and it's wild and it gives you that sense of um we need to be on our toes. There's also the actual exercise of it. And then when you finish, you have this sense of absolute relief. Now I'd rather just not feel anxious in the first place.
that would be ideal. Yes.
Because I don't think you have to, you know.
No.
And I think it's a massive, massive issue in the society we live in today. I'm sure people had anxiety before, but I think in our not only do not only do we feel anxious, but we get to feel guilty about feeling the privilege to feel anxious now as well,
Yes.
because we get so much media from everything from what's going on in Palestine to
Mm.
different parts of the world to the thing that happened the other day in America with the assassination of
Well, I'll tell
man.
you something about that. So I was on the bus home when I saw, like, I was just like, I was looking at updates for that. You're referring to Charlie Kirk
Yeah,
being shot. As we're speaking, that was about, I think, 2 days ago now. And I was on the bus, and like, the video plays, and I just see a man like getting shot in the neck in this bullet point. I was like freaking out on the bus. I was like, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ, And like whatever, like people can think what they want about him, but that's still like a human being losing their life. It's just
absolutely.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
a massive thing at the moment. There's
And it was a
people who
weird
are,
thing. It was a weird thing because
yeah,
like I was still on that bus ride. I was coming back from town, from Dublin City Centre to where I live, and um, what was weird was this really hit me. I don't know why, but after he'd been shot, so he'd been shot for I think he like had been shot an hour or two before I'd seen anything, and as me and my friends were talking about it on like WhatsApp, and my friend goes, Donald Trump announced that this guy's dead on Truth Social. So I look it up and it's like Charlie Kirk is dead. And then I was on his Wikipedia page and I hit refresh and the thing goes from Charlie Kirk is whatever to Charlie Kirk was. And it's just like, that just like freaked me out. Just like
wow.
how, um, I don't know how like ephemeral life is in a weird way where it's just like, from there, from like an instant you go from is to was, and that's just like your journey over. It's so scary.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. And same thing actually. I was just driving back from crew change the other day, and I tried to ring my mother, and my mother isn't dead, don't worry. Tried to ring my mother, and she didn't answer. And I was like, that was grand. And then a text message came through from my dad, and he said, "Oh, we're just at such and such's funeral." Now, this person had been, I don't want to get too morbid on this, but this person had been, had cancer for the last few years, but I had no idea that she was this close to passing
Yeah.
away. And it was the same thing. I was like, wow, um, I've got to, I've got to reassess myself here. I've got to think about more, I've got to get a better enjoyment out of my life here. I'm not sure if I want to be spending half my life on this ship anymore. Just
Yeah.
let's think about this a little bit more carefully, because the person who passed away was only in her early 50s. And I was like, I'm 45. You
Mhm.
know, how much how much of this sort of trying to fund myself to do the things I want to do, but ending up kind of wrecked from trying to fund myself, how much of that do I actually want to do? Do I need to
Yeah.
slow down here, reassess, and see how I can survive, get everything that I actually need to get without getting too distracted thinking about I need more things, and be able to do the things I want to do and spend the time with the people that I want to spend it with. Because,
I've been thinking about a lot of things like this lately, and it's weird. I was recently kind of fell into a bit of I say mild depression because I was thinking I was actually it was weird. I spent like last year looking for a job, and I got offered this job that I should be starting next month, right?
yeah,
And I was just thinking about like, it was a weird thing where it's like, okay, if I get this job, like that's kind of me locked in till retirement. I'm 31, right? And like, I was just thinking about the ephemerality of life in a way, because I was like,
yeah,
I was walking through town, and I see this like security guard. I don't know what business he's working for, but he's outside, and to me, he looked like in his 60s, so like near retirement, I would say. But I'm like, is this what he wanted to do with his life? Did he want to be a security guard? He seemed happy and content, but I'm like, listening to all these people kind of going by, and they're talking about their work and they put so much emphasis on it and they're complaining about this coworker or whatever, or complaining about
yeah.
this client or whatever, like, oh, this person hasn't brought something in time. And I'm like walking around listening to that, and I'm just like, a weird thing hit me where the average life expectancy is apparently in Ireland at the moment is 82. I just have
Yeah.
like I went into it, and the retirement age I think by next decade is going to rise to 68. So I'm like, you're not really giving many people time to actually enjoy their life. There's this idea that like you just work, work, work continuously, and so you
Yes.
can build the capital to enjoy those last decade or two, and I just don't think that's healthy either.
It's not, and it's not how I was brought up. It's not. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't even think I can do, to be honest. I've tried. Man, I've tried. Like there's so many jobs I've been in, and as soon as I'm, like you were saying, locked into a job, um, I'm like, how do I get out of this? This
Yeah.
is now, that is not to say that some people aren't happy in their job, and that's not to say that you couldn't go to this job. I don't know. Are you going to try it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not to say that maybe it could work out for you. I don't know. Um, it's the it's the thing of, like, I'm trying to get a mortgage at the moment, and I'm trying to get my house. That sort of is that I have that bit of security.
Permanently.
But then I was looking at myself recently, and I was thinking, am I just falling into this same trap that everybody falls into to get a job, to get a mortgage, and now I'm locked into that? Is that what I'm doing? I don't know. You know?
Oh, well, I saw someone else actually. The Irish Times recently published an article. It was with a woman who is actually probably the same age as you, or like in around, and she was saying, we rent, but because of rental prices now, she has a family, kids, husband, and because of rental prices, it's like they're worried that they're not going to have anything for retirement, you know.
Yeah.
And like at a certain point, you just can't work anymore, and you can't bring income. You can't perpetually bring income in.
No, no, you can't. And owning or having housing security has become this sort of privilege, which is
Absolutely.
very, very, very strange. I mean, in Ireland in the 80s, there was a massive recession.
Yeah.
But if you stuck around, if you didn't emigrate, you'd probably still be able to you would have been able to get yourself a house. You
Yeah.
would have had that
It'd
security.
take about 20 years, but you could, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have done it. Whereas now, there isn't a chance. Like where I am in Donegal, there's a bit of a chance just because it's still kind of isolated, although prices are going up.
Mm.
But
It's
Dublin,
gone
man,
up everywhere. Like, I don't think there's going to be a place in Ireland where, you're going to have affordable housing. Although, to be fair, I was in Waterford recently, and
yeah,
comparatively, it was insanely cheap to what you would see in Dublin.
yeah, yeah. Dublin is like Dublin, Cork, Galway. It's all around sort of like
Yeah.
half a million. Um,
Yeah, and I remember like even a decade ago, I knew some people who escaped to Kildare because of the Dublin rent price. Kildare's gone. Wicklow's probably as bad, if maybe not even worse, depending on the area you're in.
yeah,
If you're in the more rural areas, maybe it's a bit better. But like, if you're in kind of more, let's say, built-up, established areas in Wicklow, like it's the exact same. It's just basically an annex of Dublin. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's the same in Navan. Like my parents still live near Navan, and that's where I grew up. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's just like, yeah, it's up on whatever, 400,000 or 500,000 just for a very, very ordinary house. Um, yeah, it's kind of sad in a way and very unnecessary. I don't know. Some people are winning from it financially, but I think
Yes.
ultimately, I don't think anyone's winning from this because
I think something's got to give eventually. I mean, I just don't think this can exist perpetually.
no, it can't. There's a lot of people saying there's going to be a huge recession next year.
Yeah.
Don't know about that because there isn't the supply of housing. I don't know how it could fall in price unless everybody just loses their jobs. Um,
Well, unfortunately, like with the AI tech bubble, people are saying that now. I hope the bubble bursts before then. But there was one of these massive investors in AI, and so you have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt.
yeah,
But he was saying that he believes I think by the end of the decade that the 9 to 5 will be completely dead, and people are saying, well, this doesn't really make sense because you're automating so many jobs, but people will be in poverty, so how can they afford to
yes,
like like give you money basically to
yeah,
make these services work? And it seems like it's really going to be a kind of us versus them sort of scenario where the people who are investors in AI, if the bubble doesn't burst, that is, will get very, very rich and very affluent, and everyone else, it's like the grapes of wrath or something.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's, and I don't understand it all very well, but I would have some friends that seem to be a bit more clued in than I am. and they're saying the same thing basically. And then also I know people who work in tech and in various I suppose computery stuff, whether it's to do with websites or translation or social media. And now it seems that when a job goes, it's not refilled because
No.
that gap is filled by AI.
Well, did you see this thing I was reading about it? Did you hear about ghost jobs? It's really disgusting. So basically, if you go to say one of these job recruiting sites like LinkedIn or Indeed or Irish Jobs, or well, maybe not Irish Jobs, but like LinkedIn and Indeed, and it's happening globally. It's not just in Ireland. Companies are posting jobs that don't actually exist. And the reason is for two reasons. One is to make them seem like they're upsizing. So it
Yeah.
gives the illusion that they're upsizing because like, oh, look, we have all these positions, available. But the other more insidious reason too is that so that's for like investors' benefits. But the other more insidious thing is that the workers they actually have, it's kind of given this notion in their head that they're replaceable, you know.
Oh wow.
So
Well,
yeah,
that's awful.
so that's kind of where we're at the moment, and there's this thing now where
Reason I think why I live in Donegal, because you can, if you don't look at too much stuff online,
yeah,
life pretty much stays the same here.
yeah,
There's the population of about 200 or 300 people in the village where I live.
hmm
There's a mountain, there's mountains all around me, and yeah, you don't get a big sense of that
yeah,
always. And it's not like I'm not like one of those. I'm not
anti-modernity.
or something like that. It's not like I think the apocalypse is coming. And
Sure.
actually, I love cities. I love going to cities. Um, but there's a certain piece here, for sure. There's because there is so much going on out there, and things do seem to be changing so fast. Um, yeah, it's strange. It's very
Yeah.
strange and unsettling.
I was going to ask you two fun things. I'll let you go when you're taking. One thing I wanted to ask actually that I was interested in was you were mentioned that you kind of have like anxiety too. I was
Yeah,
wondering, does the position you're in, working on ships, perpetuate that? Because I'm envisioning myself in your position, right?
yeah.
And I could imagine like, well, with kind of an office job or any kind of like job, there's kind of a demarcation of like, okay, I go in, I clock in, I do my 9 hours, and then I'm home, right? But in the context of a ship, you're there all the time. And when you have, say, for example, co-workers who are, internal squabbles or whatever, and there's negativity coming from there, there's no real escape or reprieve, I would find. Do you find that the job you're in is bad for your health, or is it something that you've just kind of gotten accustomed to that it doesn't even really register anymore?
I would say it can be. I would say it depends on the trip and it depends on um, the dynamic of the people who are there. So yeah, it actually can be really hard. You're quite right. It's made me better at spotting anxiety when it starts. It's made me better at dealing with it. Um, but like I said before, you shouldn't always put yourself in a position where you have to deal with anxiety. So yeah, no, you're bang on the money, you know. Um, yeah, it can be absolutely fine. But if you're not feeling good on a ship, you don't get to go home in the evening. And the best you can hope for is a phone call to somebody that you love or a friend or whatever. So yeah, definitely, you're on the money there. Yeah,
And generally, is there like you were talking about kind of like medical services on the ship, but is there like mental health services on the ship? Because that's something that I think gets overlooked in every workplace.
it
Places
does.
will provide medical, but that just means you're physical, so that you're
Yeah,
able to work.
yeah, exactly. Um, no, there's not really. Like you can go and talk to somebody, senior officer or somebody like that, if you are finding things difficult.
Yeah,
Um, but the other thing about ships is, in general, it's completely male dominated.
yeah,
So with that comes its own kind of dynamic, which isn't to say that guys can't be good at listening. Of course they can. But when you've just got guys, it does tend to be more, uh,
Limited perspectives.
yeah, limited perspective, maybe a bit more macho at times. So yeah, now um, there's numbers and stuff that you can ring for mental health services, but that's
IP the house and stuff, yeah.
any job. Like, you could do that. And I have a good friend who I talk to who used to work on the ship with me, and one of my favorite hobbies is fly tying. I like to go fly fishing, so I make flies, and that's something I do on the ship, which helps me to take my focus off the day and reset myself. But I would call that friend from time to time, because he's off the ship now. He works in a different job, and if I'm feeling, like I'm having a rough time, he gets it. Whereas I could ring, not a social worker, but I could ring like a therapist, and they'll have all the training, but they haven't worked on a ship. So it's
That's the problem is like I'm a huge advocate for therapy and stuff, but like yeah, sometimes it can be a round peg in the square hole.
yeah, exactly, and it can take quite a while before you find a therapist that suits you. Never
Yeah,
mind.
that's the other thing. Yeah, so it's not like going to a GP really,
No.
where it's like hey, I have the skin rash, and they give you to dermatologist. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of thing where they just give you antibiotics. Like with therapy.
Yeah,
First of all, you have to weed out the shysters. And even then when
yeah,
you do, and people are just legitimately there, then it's a matter of, okay, but which one works for me specifically,
you're 100% right,
And then it's also so expensive.
and it's also like 50 quid a go if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Um, so
That would
you're
actually be on the cheaper end. I knew one
yeah,
person who knew someone who I forget how the deal worked, but basically she was subsidized somewhat. Um, I don't know if it was by the public sector or a private sector thing, but there was a psychiatrist who specifically wanted to make her services available for people on lower income, and she was able to do. I think the lowest you could go was about 30 quid a session, right? Which is still not trivial if it's a weekly thing. You're on low income. If you're on dole or you're on disability or whatever, that's not trivial. But um, or minimum wage, or if you're doing shift work or anything, that's
yeah,
absolutely not trivial. But that was, I forget how it worked, but that was about as low as she could actually afford to make her rates, even though she specifically wanted to help people who were on lower income. It's
yeah,
difficult.
yeah. It's not, even though there's a lot of talk about it recently, especially in Ireland. I think it's still not um, being maybe subsidized in the right way, and
No, I think the criticism I've heard of it was that the mental health clinics in Ireland that are on the public sector are kind of over, like there's so many people, so they're kind of overburdened, and they don't have the time or the resources to give people individual care in any sufficient way. So a lot of it is just about reducing immediate emergencies if it's someone that they feel potentially is a threat to themselves or others, addressing that through medication, trying to sort medication. But medicate, and I'm not anti-medication, but like yeah, I think sertraline or whatever can really help people and get them back on track. But that's only one part of the solution, and actually kind of dealing with what's on your mind is the other, and that's just the part that's not getting sorted.
yeah, and it's like if you're in a position where you're in a crisis, um, by talking to somebody, you'll probably reduce your crisis by whatever 50%, and you'll feel
Yeah,
a bit better for a while. But what you really need in those situations is a very clear plan about what's going to happen for you for the next year
yeah,
at least.
yeah,
And you need to know that you can talk to that person who's going to help you maybe once a week for the next year. And if you think about how much that would cost the individual, and it might necessarily be a therapist, but you pretty much need either a team of people for a while, like it depends on your situation. Of course it does, but I'm just
Mhm.
speaking for myself. If I'm in a situation like that, I need fairly consistent reassurance
Yeah.
that I'm okay or I'm going to be okay. Because if I don't get it, I'm not able to tell myself that I'm okay.
Mhm.
So now friends can be great. So sometimes you'll get that from friendships. I'm
But
lucky.
the difficulty is you feel like you're overburdening them. There's always a guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
also, I also feel like this isn't their qualification. They're whatever they do, whatever their occupation is, my friends. And
Yeah,
some people, I mean, we're fortunate enough even to have people to reach out to. Some people don't even have that, and I think that's very sad.
yeah.
Loneliness, I think, is a big killer. You know,
It is. It's massive, and that's what I was going to say. I'm lucky insofar as I'm fairly outgoing. Sometimes I am a bit agoraphobic, so sometimes I
yeah.
just I find it difficult to go out and
I
interact.
had that too. Yeah, grown up a bit.
But mostly, I'm quite good in fish out of water situations. So I'm quite good at talking to people who I just meet
Mhm.
um, of by chance, and I can that can change my entire day. If I have a good interaction with somebody for 5 minutes in a random situation, that can swing my whole day around. But then I think, well, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have the ability to do that, or just might
Yeah,
meet the person. And that's going to be an awful lot harder for them. Plus, I've, as much of as I've had plenty of my own struggles, I've been very good at informing myself on what I can do, what's within my control, and what I can't control. So, like by that I mean like diet, exercise, supplements, anything that that you can use to help you. Um, that you do that first.
yeah,
That's how I work with it, and they're really basic things, but they'll give you a sense of independence for one thing, but they'll also physically help you.
yeah,
So if you can do those things, whereas a lot of people just don't have those skills, they've never been. I forget this. People just don't know. They've no
yeah.
idea that if you take a few vitamins, if you make sure you're getting good food, that actually will make a big difference. And some people just don't know that.
Well, there's a lot there, and I don't know what the solution is, but I think better funding for mental health, hopefully, and I think health services in general. I think the HSE, could be better.
Oh yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
talk to my friends, for example, up north, and just like the quality of care they get on the uh, NHS compared to HSE is insane. I
yeah,
don't know, like being Donegal, you probably like experience that too, like people coming over the border and stuff too. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. It's free in the north. There's a lot of service.
Checkups or GP visits are capped much more
Yeah,
than they are here.
they are indeed, and it's. I think it's cost, but I think it's also just making less of a deal out of it, and it's still mental health is still stigmatized massively.
Absolutely.
In fact, in a way, it's become talked about so much that it's had an effect where it's a little bit trivialized.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think, it's become a focus of a lot of people. Like I remember actually years ago, probably about a decade ago now, Brezzy, if you know him, the musician, he became a huge mental health advocate, talking about his issues with anxiety growing up. And I remember going to see a comedy show, and they were like slagging him not because he has mental health issues, but because the comedian was labeled him the ambassador of mental health in Ireland, facetiously, obviously, and saying that she doesn't feel comfortable talking about her mental health because everyone's just going to think she's Brezzy or something. I can't remember the exact joke of it, but a lot of people are talking about it now. But yeah, I mean, I think the discussion around mental health is definitely on people's tongues, which is good, but I find that probably because, and this is just me theorizing, but probably because of how insincere we are as a culture, we're very um flippant, and we're very I don't know, self-knowing and self-aware, that I think like anything that becomes a repeating conversation will eventually be eroded by mockery and derision, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it does make sense. And maybe you've heard of the philosopher Alan Watts.
Hmm.
He talks about being sincere, not about being over sincere, not about being flowery about things, but two words actually: sincerity and integrity.
Yeah.
Uh, like you can, there's a place for jokes, and I would laugh. I would laugh at my own anxious moments because it helps.
Same. Yeah.
That's my choice. I wouldn't laugh at somebody else's anxious moments unless
I'm
they.
the exact same. Yeah. I'm the exact same.
I've been in that position where I've been in a bad way and somebody slags me off and they actually have the best of intentions.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It
Yeah.
just doesn't work, and there's a lot of people out there that still don't even think that anxiety exists. So,
Mm. Or yeah, they say it's like overblown, or yeah, it's particular for people, say from the mid 20th century, where they go, everyone has anxiety now, everyone has depression. We didn't have that. It's like, yeah, you did. You just didn't talk about it.
no, you didn't talk about it, and people got really angry instead and bet on
Yeah.
children or something like
I
that.
mean, watch any movie from like the 1950s about a housewife, and you'll see depictions of depression,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And
all about Eve or something.
the good old days weren't that great in many ways.
No, yeah. Well, you think about like it's weird how people are kind of romanticized, like people who are born, say, late 20th century, early 21st century, say the 80s, 90s, 2000s, even 2010s now, which makes me feel old. But people who are born in those kind of decades now sort of have this weird romanticization about the 50s, and I think there's an element of stability to the 50s that they don't have, that you were kind of alluding to earlier, where you could like you just work one job and have afford to get a house and a car and blah blah blah, and the upkeep of everything, and it was sufficient on a single income. And if, say, for example, your teenage kid had a job, or your wife had a job or something, like that was sort of a surplus. Where so I understand the romanticization of that kind of stability, that financial stability that people had, but the lives they lived were like, you look at gay people back then, it was just like,
Yeah,
everyone was closeted.
yeah,
So like that would affect the man and the woman, and it's just like,
yeah,
and the kids. Like that
yeah.
was everyone's life kind of fucked just because the society they lived in.
So like you could not go to mass, like you
Yeah.
know, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Yeah.
all kinds of oppression going on, like, and all the stories and real stories that have come out in the last few years about.
Do you ever hear about people who were like excommunicated and they just became pariahs in their society, like in their parish? They just became like pariahs, and it's just like, I don't know, because they questioned the priest or something. They got
Yeah,
excommunicated. It's sad.
yeah, it was crazy. Like the amount of power that the church had, the
Yeah.
amount of clout that the local priest would have. Yeah,
And the
it's
kind of censorship around that too, the censorship
yeah,
of literature, the censorship of films, which then got into news censorship, because people knew, at least since the 70s, maybe even earlier, about, like, for example, the claims of sexual abuse, for example.
yeah,
If you went to the police about that, it was just buried,
yeah,
stuff like that. And I'm against that kind of censorship. And it's a difficult thing too, because I'm not questioning anybody who has like faith or is a member of a church. I have no issue with that. My contention is with, um, because you're not, like, it's not blasphemous to critique a priest, you know what I mean? Like,
no.
or something like that, or critique an institution. It shouldn't be. That's absurd.
It is absurd. It is absurd, and it's a thing of is I don't know who is it, a Shakespeare quote that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
The power that the church had, it was just yeah, it made people feel untouchable, and in a way, I can't even uh, well, I can't make it into an excuse, but there's when you're told as somebody going to a seminary that you are kind of directly in touch with God, and your judgment will be informed by God, and then therefore you have this power that is going to mess you up.
Hmm.
So you could even, and like I said, it's no excuse for things that would have happened in the past, but it's a kind of an explanation for how these things happened because these guys who had no experience of sex or any kind of even talking about it were put in these positions of power,
Yeah.
and that's definitely gonna affect how you deal with these people that, in a sense, you've been told you're kind of responsible for.
Yeah.
You're responsible for this community of people. You're supposed to keep them on the straight and narrow.
Hmm.
It's it's crazy to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, I
Yeah,
think also, to some degree, if you actually like read the Bible, you kind of have to accept that like a lot of the stuff that you're reading has kind of been informed over centuries from people kind of trying to adapt it into modern living for whatever modernity was at that time. And things have to kind of adapt. But I think if you want to go back to like, the Bible itself and kind of like the teachings of God and then later Jesus, it's like I don't know, like I think those things kind of get twisted along the way to fit whatever the contemporary goal is. And I think to some degree a lot of the sects of religions that came beyond that kind of aloof from the original meaning if you are truly a Christian, if that makes sense.
yeah. Of course it does. Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's many things in the Bible make an awful lot of sense, and could
Yeah.
actually help you to lead a really happy, respectful, sincere life.
Like for example, I was learning about the Bible teach a lot about like lust and coveting, which like later became kind of sexual repression, right? Through I think unhealthy sexual repression. But
Yeah,
the reason for that, I was hearing someone explain, was that they're afraid that if you too much coveting, let's say, would lead to dehumanization of women. And I
yeah,
think that's fair. I think that's something that everyone could agree with. You shouldn't. I think you see that issue now. You see that issue with a lot of kids now where they're so, I think,
yeah,
warped by porn and misogyny that they do just view women as uh, things for their sexual gratification. So I don't have an issue with that necessarily. I think it's a good message, but I
yeah.
think when it gets perverted by people interpreting what that means, I
Yes,
think that's bad. So I think the fundamental teachings are good. I just think what's bad is how they get corrupted every couple of centuries.
yeah. No, no, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're 100%.
Anyway, you've been very gracious with your time. I won't take it too much more. I just want to ask one final thing, and that is
Yeah.
what people can expect from you coming forward.
Okay.
I'm just doing the PR thing to end it.
It's like, God, what do I even
Yeah.
expect from myself? Um, I think creatively, I'm going to keep writing my songs and allowing things to happen the way my gut kind of tells me. So I'm really hoping that this single reaches a fair few listeners.
Hmm.
It's out next week on the 16th.
Yeah. It'll be
And
out by the time this is up.
say again.
It'll be out by the time this is up. So yeah, it's out September
Oh,
16th. It's
okay.
called On the Ship.
So
And is that going to be available like everywhere, like on all the
yeah,
stream platforms?
yeah,
Yep.
all digital platforms, and there will be vinyl and there will be CDs as well when they eventually get done. But I think to just going back to what we were saying, to try and just keep going forward with sincere work. And it's the same second time I've said that today because a friend of mine just released something there this week. He works with Ross Tones is his name. He's a music producer, and he also did a project with this guy Dara from Cork. I can't remember Dara's second name, but he's a spoken word poetry artist. They did a collaboration that they're
Oh, I think I've interviewed him.
yeah, you might well have, and they got track of the week on RTE there.
I'm
RTE.
going. I'm going to make sure. Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um, I apologize to Dara. Hold on a sec. No, it's gone now. Sorry.
that's okay.
What's your friend called again? Sorry.
Ross Tones.
Ross Tones, yes. I think I definitely interviewed, I forget the name of the project now. Throwing Snow, isn't that it?
Going Snow, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Throwing Snow. I've interviewed them, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
I interviewed them back in June. Um, Dara Fleming.
Dara Fleming, that's it. Yeah, yeah. I'm terrible actually. Talking about anxiety, I've anxiety around remembering names and faces.
I'm terrible at it. Yeah, I really am bad at that. It's
As
unfortunate.
soon as I'm not quite remembering, then I get a little bit more anxious about it, and I'm never going to remember it. So
Yeah.
it's a funny thing, but yes, they released something recently, a collab, and um,
I think that's what I interviewed them for. Yeah, it was for pedaling.
yeah, and um, the sincerity of that I really really liked. So yeah, from that I suppose is what I'm saying moving forward my own work to keep it sincere, but not over sincere, like just too. So it's not self-indulgent. Trying to keep going forward with stuff that's sincere and as truthful as I can make it. Um,
Who
and
actually kind of inspires you in terms of writers? That could be music writers, it could be authors, anything.
say again.
Who inspires you in terms of writers,
Oh,
and that could be
that's,
like, songwriters, or it could be like authors, anything.
um, Beck is probably one of the
Yeah,
biggest ones because he's so loose.
yeah. Which is
And
funny because I would consider Beck kind of an ironic writer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He also kind of um, reflects a real dystopian sort of view of the US if you listen to
Yes.
a lot of his songs, and I like that. But he also has humor.
Yeah.
Uh, so
One
that
thing you cannot accuse Beck of is being humorless.
no, exactly, exactly. But also people like Pat Inglesby, if you've ever heard
Mhm.
of Pat Inglesby, a poet who spoke a lot about mental health when it wasn't the fashion. He was institutionalized at a very young age,
Mm.
because he was basically just not your run of the mill kid, and I think he had no power in one of his arms, and I think that was, I know I could be wrong, but he went through a lot of his electric shock treatment,
Yeah.
and it had
Kind of like you see in like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or something. It's
yeah,
tragic.
exactly, exactly. But I remember seeing him when I was young enough. My mom used to bring us to stuff. There was stuff on at Navan, and he was reading his poems. But he's a fantastic, courageous kind of person, who was not afraid to speak about things, not afraid to be funny as well. Um, those kind of artists really would inspire me. Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Tom Petty is just, if you're feeling like you need a bit of a jolt of courage, just listen to a Tom Petty album. Like is it's the same thing again, sincerity without floweriness. He just like, you can do this, you
Yeah.
can
You
absolutely.
you like the more prosaic approach, do you?
Say again.
You like the more prosaic approach, like compared to I guess flowery language. You prefer just a more kind of honest sincerity.
Yeah, 100%. I can't really do flowery language. I do like,
Yeah.
poetry and the sound of words, but if you've got something to tell me, just tell me.
Yeah, no, because I'll give you something right now. Like I'm trying to write a book because there's a competition recently about like Ireland's first author, like first book thing for the Irish Writer Centre. I'm like writing this book, and I tend to be very matter of fact in my writing, and I'm just like reading it. I'm like, oh, I just think the prose is shit. I just think I have terrible prose. I'm like, I don't know if I can submit this, but I'm just like, oh. I
Dude,
wish I could. I wish I could hire an editor just to kind of preemptively tell me if it's any good. I might do that. I might see if there's like editors freelance.
you should, but also you should submit it anyway because you've
Yeah,
got absolutely nothing to lose.
yeah. I'm thinking of writing the book anyway because I have the idea. I was really
Yeah.
inspired by David Lynch. He
Yes,
was talking about like, yeah, just do it. Just his whole thing is just like, just do it. I was like, okay, I think I should.
definitely. No, just do it and just keep doing it. My friend I was talking about earlier, who I used to tie flies with on the ship, um, he would join me in the cabin and we would tie these little flies for fishing. And he would get really nervous because he was afraid of it's fiddly what you're doing, but he'd get really nervous because his hands are quite big,
Yeah.
and he was just really afraid to get it wrong. And I was just like, just do it, just keep doing it. This is what Ross says to me as well about music. So it's funny because I find this hard to apply to my own um, artistic endeavors, but
Yeah.
just keep doing it. If when you think about it, what exactly do you have to lose? Like you're going to discover something about yourself by writing this book. Um, you're going to get a sense of some kind of completion of it. You probably, without a doubt, get some wisdom out of it. At the very worst, it won't it won't get
Get
published. It
published.
won't
Yeah.
win any prizes. But so what?
Yeah.
Like do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely do it.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, like this is probably big headed me, but sometimes I look at because like when I like a lot of like older literature, and the prose is just beautiful, like how they describe stuff, and then I'll read like more modern day stuff, and I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah.
You have to compare yourself to your contemporaries. I don't know, like I don't say that with any kind of like glee or anything, but or like any kind of ego, but like
Yeah.
I just kind of look at like a lot of things, and for me, it's hard to discern between what by today's standards is considered good writing versus, bad writing. I don't know. It's hard for me to discern.
I don't know either, to be honest. I do like Hemingway though, and he's
Hemingway's great, yeah. Hemingway's
very
amazing. Did you ever
minimalist.
read Movable Feast? It's just him talking about, it's a non-fiction one. It's just him talking about going around Paris in like the 1940s. Or maybe it's the 30s. I can't remember. I read it a while ago. And it's a short one. You can read it like in a sitting, but it's a great book where he's just talking about like this person's a prick and this person, But his whole thing, I remember the piece of advice he said was, don't eat until you've written, because like the hunger gives you good writing or something. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
I would go with that. I think that makes sense. Like if I try to do stuff late in the day, now if it's before I go to bed, sometimes I can write quite well. But usually it's yeah, not close to eating because your body is just metabolizing the food,
yeah,
and you don't have the same sort of energy for it.
yeah. I think also it was a part of like a mental thing where if you don't have, if you delay, if you have hunger and there's an instinct to eat, if you delay that until after you write, it makes writing part of your kind of natural bodily function, if that makes sense.
Oh, interesting.
It's a
I'm
weird
gonna
thing.
try that. I'm gonna try that now. When we
Don't
finish.
starve though.
Oh,
Don't
God,
get
no
malnourished.
danger of that. Um, but you're right. It's something I used to do sort of instinctively, but I haven't done it as much lately. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna actually. I need to this evening. I'm heading up to North Donegal because I'm gonna do some running tomorrow. But I need to change the machine heads on my guitar and the strings on my guitar. So before I eat, and I know that's
You're
not
gonna do that.
creative thing in a way, but it is because you're
No, it
preparing.
is. It's a
It is
mechanical function.
exactly. So I'm going to try that now, and hopefully it'll go all right. I'll still have a guitar after it. Um, but
For
yeah, give that a
I'll let you get on with your day. It was really lovely chatting with you, and it's very nice to meet you. And hopefully we see each other in person sometime if you're ever down here doing a show or anything, or if
yeah,
I'm ever in Donegal, I'll let
I'm
you know.
planning on being in Dublin maybe next week at some stage. So
Oh, perfect.
I'll send you.
I'll uh,
Um,
I'll write my phone, or you can just send me a text. I'll just put it in here. Don't say it out loud because it will go on the podcast.
yeah, sure, sure.
If you just want to send me a text, and I'll pop
Oh yeah.
along for free.
After we finish up, will that stay there? Or
If you want, yeah. I should.
I
I
never.
think I have your email, don't I?
Ah.
I have your email, right? You can just
Oh
email me
yeah,
here.
email. Yeah, yeah. Because I don't, I can't. I'm really bad with these things. I can't ever make sense of them. Um, jump to the latest. Oh no. Huh, got it. Oh no, there it is. Hang on.
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
just give me 1 second. I'll. Oh. Yeah, no, like I say, I could be. hopefully I'll be in Dublin next week. But I'll yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
if you are like if you're playing a show right now, let's pop along.
okay, Aaron, I've got that. I'll send you a message in a minute.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks very much. And one final thing, just tell people where they can find you and things like that.
Oh yeah. So with Instagram, it's at Cuan's Music. That's
Yeah.
Cuans music. And then Cuan's Music, same spelling, .com. The website needs to be updated. Oops. Uh, so it's probably
It's
you're
in
better
progress
off.
at the moment.
It's in progress. It looks fine, but it needs to be updated. So that you're better off looking at Instagram, and then you'll see all the promo stuff. Oh yeah, and shows. If I can mention shows, uh,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I am. I'll just get the dates. Hey. So next week, as part of the single promo, I am playing. So 17th, Wednesday the 17th, I'm playing a gig in the Cottage Bar in Letterkenny, which is known as Mini Mouthpiece, which is um, a gig for upcoming artists. So you play for about half an hour, and there'll be other artists there. And the idea is original music, and it's a listening affair, all going well. Then on the 19th, 2 days later, I'm playing a gig in a club called the night is called Club EO, and that's in Leo's Tavern, which is in Crawley in Donegal, and that's hosted by Moya Brennan from Clonard.
Oh yeah. I've
And
interviewed her
same
for
kind of
the Star before. She's great.
yeah, she's brilliant. So I think I'm playing second last at that, so support to the final act.
It's not
Uh,
their family tavern actually, Leo's.
say again.
That's not her family's tavern. I don't know if that's still open, is it? Leo's Tavern.
I think her dad used to run it. I think her dad is
That's
passed
it,
now,
yeah.
but
They played there in
so,
the early 70s, yeah. Maybe
yeah,
late 60s
exactly.
actually, I can't remember.
That's a fantastic venue, and
Did you
there's
see
going
their
to be
producer pass away, I think the other day, for very fortunate, and his producer as well. I can't think of the guy's name
oh,
offhand,
yeah,
but there was an obituary to him. He would have been, I
yeah,
think, only early 80s. I think he had a short disease.
okay, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so I'll be playing there, and then I'll be doing another what's called Mouthpiece, which is also in the Cottage Bar in Letterkenny on the 30th. Um, and if anybody wants to come along to those shows, that'd be great.
Perfect.
And if anybody wants to offer me any more shows, that'd be even better. So just meet you Instagram, or yeah, Instagram is the best way at the moment for sure. And thanks a million, Aaron, for having me as well. I really enjoyed the conversation.
I've seen,
Uh,
me too, and enjoy the rest of your day, man.
yeah, absolutely.
It just started raining here. Is it raining up near you?
It rained about 5 minutes ago with a shower, so
Okay.
there's some kind of synchronicity going on.
We're only getting it now. All right. Take
Yeah.
care of yourself, man.
All right, take it easy, Aaron. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and would consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.